and welcome to the second session of our coaching series. So it's part of the Women and Girls Task Force. So the Women and Girls Task Force is incredibly excited for these monthly sessions, and we're happy to have you joining us tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kirsty Mason, and I'm the Community Coaching Lead at Canadian Sports Centre Atlantic and a member of the Women and Girls Task Force. And I'm also a ringette coach, ringette athlete, board member, and like many of you, a female leader. So I'm so honored to be part of the Women and Girls Task Force and the MC of the coaching portion of these series, where we learn from a variety of influential presenters over the coming months. So in addition to Canadian Sports Centre Atlantic, I would like to thank the following partners who can be seen on the screen. So that includes the Sport Nova Scotia, of course, Support for Sport, Nova Scotia Gaming, and the Government of Nova Scotia Communities, Cultures and Heritage. On behalf of the Women and Girls Task Force and our partners, I would like to acknowledge that our offices are located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And we are aware that there may be participants joining from all over Turtle Island, and we welcome you to share where you currently reside, if outside of Mi'kma'ki. So before we get started, we just want to go over a few housekeeping items. So we ask that you please keep your camera and microphone turned off for the duration of the panel, and then you can open it up for the Q&A, and that's just to reduce background noise and any feedback. To have a more enjoyable experience, we ask that you change your Zoom viewing to speaker view so that you can do that in the top right corner of your screen, and that way you'll only see the people that will be speaking throughout the panel. And please change your username to your full name or your NCCP number. And the reason for that is we will be doing a draw tonight for a prize, and also we will be rewarding non-NCCP professional development points, so you'll get some points in your locker for attending these sessions. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation, we ask that you direct those to the chat box to either myself or Janice, and Janice's name is listed as host, so she'll be easy to find. So please, any technical difficulties or anything, direct those to Janice, and any questions, direct them to Janice or myself. You can also submit any anonymous questions to us. And if you have just general comments and questions, you can put those in the chat box. Lastly, we ask that you actively participate in all polls. So that brings me to our next slide. So we'd like to get an idea of where you all are joining us from and what is your role in sport. So we'll give you a minute or two to complete that. So it looks like majority are joining us from the central region in Nova Scotia, some from the Valley, Fundy, and Highland regions, and then other parts of Canada. So we'd love to know where you're joining us from, so please put that in the chat box. And in terms of role, majority are coaches, which is expected. This is a coach series. And then other roles include athlete, staff, board member, volunteer, and parent. Which is suiting because we're going to be talking a lot about life balance, and we know as coaches we often wear multiple hats, so we'll definitely be touching on that tonight. Okay. So for the next question, we would like you to use the annotate function. So that can be found at the top of your screen by clicking, there should be 3 dots, and then near that should be an annotate function. And we ask that you use that to indicate where you feel your life is balanced right now. So to the left, maybe more so unbalanced, and then to the right would be very balanced. You can have multiple feelings about this. It can be all over the place. Just want to get an idea.
Absolutely. So if you haven't got there yet, just at the top of your screen, if you hover, there's a view options button. You can select annotate, and then you can either draw or use one of the fancy stamps and just put your mark on the page there.
Okay, so we'll give you like 20 more seconds to do that. we're all over, which is expected, and it's great. And we encourage you guys to share this and take comfort in the session tonight, because we're all females who are balancing multiple roles in sport. So we want to learn from each other. Okay, so I'll clear this. And then we will move on to introducing our panelists. So before doing so, I do want to bring up that we are talking about what might seem as a touchy subject to some people. I know I've done a lot of reading on this around family and life balance, and how some people don't always love the term life balance. Sometimes it's life management. Sometimes people don't even believe in life balance. But tonight we're excited to learn from 3 women who have multiple roles in sport, like many of us, and hopefully everyone can take something away from it, or at least just relate to some of the feelings that they may have experienced during their time as a coach and as leaders and as sport admin or as volunteers. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce you to our 3 panelists tonight, who I all know personally, so I'm pretty lucky to know each and every one of them. So first is Cathy Burton. So Cathy has been involved in sport all of her life. Cathy participated in a wide variety of sport in her school as a youth, and then was a member of the Dalhousie women's volleyball team during her university years. During her studies at Dalhousie, Cathy became interested in coaching because of a positive female mentor coach. She has been coaching at all levels of sport ever since. She coached a variety of sports when she was teaching at the junior high and high school level. She also coached ringette in her community, and then as a coach at the provincial level and eventually Canada Games level. Cathy has been involved in sport at the organizational level and was a member of a community sporting committee and provincial sporting committee. Most recently, Cathy was the Team Nova Scotia's chef de mission at the 2019 Canada Winter Games, and is grateful for this experience and the connections she made provincially and nationally. Cathy is also an educator and school principal at an adult and alternative high school. Her work in schools keeps her busy, but she still has time to support community sport in whatever capacity is required. Cathy is a member of a family of coaches. Her spouse has been an active and dedicated coach in soccer, both at the community and provincial levels. All 3 of her daughters have also coached community sport and provincial sport. So welcome, Cathy. So just so everyone knows, Cathy was my coach, and I played ringette with all 3 of her daughters. So it'll be super cool to hear her perspective. Next up is Cindy Tai. So Cindy is a former national team member and all-Canadian soccer player, graduating from Acadia as an academic all-Canadian. After graduating, Cindy was a math and physical education teacher for 20 years. She now devotes her time to coaching and parenting. Her coaching resume includes assistant coach of the U17 national soccer team, head coach U15 national soccer team, assistant coach of Canada's U20 team, and Nova Scotia Canada Games coach for female soccer in 2009, 2013, and 2017. Cindy is currently the head coach of Dalhousie Tigers women's soccer team and the high performance manager at Dalhousie University. So, and she also, I forgot to mention this in her bio, but she also helps coach her daughter's U19 ringette team, and she coaches against me, and I also coach her daughter. So also excited to hear from her perspective. Lastly is Jody Trethewey. So Jody became involved in the sport of ringette during her high school years because girls cannot play hockey. Little did she know that the game of ringette would turn into a lifelong obsession and eventually mold her into the leader she is today. As a player, Jody loved the game, excelling to the point she was competing for national championships. The passion she experienced as a player eventually led to coaching provincial and national programs and leading programs in schools and universities. Her passion and desire to grow the sport and open opportunities for athletes only continued to blossom as she continued to grow her leadership skills, becoming the current president of Ringette Nova Scotia and an executive board member with Sport Nova Scotia. Jody started coaching and volunteering as she wanted to expand support by providing opportunity to girls through sport, promote female athletes to be future leaders, and expand the Future Coach program. Recognizing a lack of visibility for girls to see themselves excelling in sport, especially as leaders, Jody continues to support and mentor girls to not only become good ringette players, but also great people. She hopes that the girls will take the skills they learn from sport into other aspects of their life. And I can definitely speak to that as I coach with Jody, and she's always encouraging the girls to pursue their dreams and to continue what they're applying in sport to apply it in life as well. So now that I've introduced you all, I would welcome each of you to maybe talk a little bit more about how you got involved in sport and where you're at today, and maybe even throughout COVID, kind of what you're coaching now and if that has changed at all. So Cathy, I'll get you to go first.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Nice to see your names on the screen. I do miss not being able to see people, that's for sure. But it's nice to see some names that I recognize. My involvement in sport, and I apologize, some of you have heard this story before, but my involvement in sport started as a young girl living in rural Nova Scotia in the Valley. And there were no real organized sport prior to junior high. The only sport that was a community run sport in my area was ringette, and it was in the Canning rink. So that was my only opportunity, and really the only reason I played ringette was because, like Jody's intro, girls weren't allowed to play hockey then. It was the only thing that we had outside of the evening ball hockey games or the very often softball games in our community with up on the cow pasture, basically. So organized sport was a thing that I never really experienced until I got to junior high or high school. No female coaches, not even on my ringette team. I did have an elementary phys ed teacher for a bit of time. And those who are in the know of women in sport in the province know Dorothy Walker. She was actually my phys ed teacher. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever that I had this female phys ed teacher in front of me. And so I credit a lot of my interest and my encouragement to her. And so after that, I played sport, went through high school, and in high school, played on our volleyball team that didn't really have a coach. So we kind of coached ourselves. Somehow got the nod from Lois McGregor, who would have been my second mentor at Dalhousie, who asked me to come to Dal, and I played volleyball at Dal and did the phys ed program and the education program. So after finishing that off, I went to find a job, and I found some phys ed teaching jobs. I started our family, and the rest is history. My involvement in ringette ended when I got to high school, and funny enough, when I was teaching in the middle school out here in my community, I noticed a bunch of girls wearing ringette jackets one day, and I was pleasantly surprised that ringette still existed, because I'd kind of lost touch with the ringette world, and so very quickly found out where I needed to register her, and up we went to St. Margaret's Bay, and got Julia playing at about the age of 5, and then the other two, Rachel and Emily, followed along. I mentioned it once that I played ringette a long time ago in Canning, on day 2 of practice for Julia. And the next thing I knew, I was digging my skates out and getting back in. So that's how I got back involved. And then from there, I've been involved at all levels, trying to help build the sport when I can. Coached a lot of junior high sport and high school sport. And then as the girls moved on, the coaching shifted for me, and it became a little less regular, like nightly visits to the rink, and of course they were playing soccer too. So it got a little quieter. So now I'm coaching a little bit here and there with some older girls. And my most recent stint was, of course, with Canada Games in 2019. I headed off to Red Deer to take a crew up there. So my involvement in sport has kind of gone from very little, like I said, the nightly road game, ball hockey games on the road, and up into Red Deer in 2019. So been busy, wouldn't change a thing. That's my story.
Awesome. Thank you, Cathy. And thanks for coming on here tonight again, because for anyone that wasn't able to catch the leadership session, she was part of our first leadership session in January, and that's on our YouTube if you want to check that out. So thanks for coming back, Cathy. Yep. And Cindy, we'll get you to go next. What are you up to, and how'd you get there?
Well, thank you. And it's nice to see everybody's names as well. Just like Cathy, I grew up playing all sports. Soccer obviously was a big one, but ringette and basketball and softball and anything going at the time. There wasn't always girls teams available. So I did play Little League with the boys. I played soccer with the boys. It wasn't until I was 13 or 14 when I played on teams that actually had other girls. So but I didn't seem to mind that because I love sports so much. Very supportive in my school environment, and sport really gave me a place to just be myself. That's where I felt the most at home. So I went to Acadia, graduated from there with phys ed, and went on to get my master's of education and taught all the way through. And coached, of course, when you're educating, you need to be coaching and involved with the kids that way. So I started with middle school and high school, and then eventually provincial teams. And throughout my teaching career, slowly I started to pay more attention to coaching, and then had kids, and got involved with them. And I was part-time coaching, part-time teaching, until eventually opportunity with the national team came forward, which I didn't think I was ready for, but took anyway. And quickly after that, opportunity at Dalhousie came forward, and same thing. Didn't think I was ready, thought it was a big risk to move from teaching to that, but took it anyway. I'm very, very happy and grateful that I did. Now balancing Dalhousie, working with their coaches there, working with my team there, and also, like Kirsty mentioned, on the bench with the U19 ringette team on Monday nights at LeBrun, because it's just around the corner. So it's busy, but it's great. And like Cathy said, it wouldn't change a thing.
Awesome. Thanks, Cindy. And we're super happy that you're back in the ringette world now too. So thank you. And last but not least, Jody. I already know, but what are you up to, and what got you there?
Thanks, Kirsty. Kirsty, I see you a lot at the rink. Hello, everyone. So a little bit about how I get started to where I am now. I did start playing ringette when I was about 8 years old. I was like probably many siblings, I was being dragged to the rink all the time to watch my brother play hockey. And so at that time, one Saturday, I saw a group of bunnies, is what we call them and used to call them in ringette, playing. They shared the ice with the hockey team. So I had said to my mother that I would rather be out there on the ice while he's at the other end and sitting in the stands with her. And at that time, she told me, "Well, you're already in figure skating and gymnastics and swimming and piano, so you need to wait and be sure that that's what you want to do." So the next winter, she signed me up, and I played into university, and then I took some time away. And a few years later, had recognized I didn't really hear a lot about ringette in the community for a while. And then my other sport in the off season is softball. So I was playing with some girls who, well, we were in our 20s then, who also played ringette. So right away, I wanted to join that team. And the next year, the local club sent out an email to the women on the team that they had a ringette team of 11 to 13-year-olds who didn't have a coach. And the team wouldn't be able to run or go on. And so they were looking for someone who knew the sport to fill the role. So I saw this at that time. I had just started to change my career. I had been working with youth at the time and had gone into more of an administrative role. So I saw this as a way to connect back with youth and with children and be a part of the community. So I reached out to a teammate and convinced her to come with me because it's more fun when you're with your friend, and that we could spend our time together supporting these girls. And I've been coaching ever since. that same year, a previous colleague had approached me and said that they were looking for someone on the provincial board with the policy background to fill a gap that they were working on. So as I was just starting a new career, I saw this as an opportunity not only to provide some expertise in what I love, but policy and implementation, but also the sport. So it kind of evolved from there, and I saw that as a way to gain some expertise to further advance my professional goals, and as well, to work for my work life and my coaching life. They do mimic each other, striving for the highest level achievement in both, and aligns with what I want for the girls that I coach. And to support them in kind of gaining their skills and confidence to be in leadership roles and to have women as role models. So, and here I am now with all of you, and I feel very, very lucky to be here. So, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Jody, and thank you for spending another night with me and with all of us. I'm excited to hear from you tonight. So we'll get into the questions, and Cindy, I'm going to ask you first. So in your bio, it was mentioned that you've been coaching at a high level, and you've continued to coach at that high level while raising kids. So now that they are getting older and starting to form their own lives, how are you able to parent and focus so much energy into your coaching?
Well, it's a great question. I think when I saw the beginning there, and it had the life balance, and we talked a lot about that, especially lately. But I think for me, over the last couple of years, it has been me viewing it more as a blend of, I have certain times of the year that I'm very, very busy. Or, if you look at throughout the day, if I'm, I have training at night, then I'm present in the morning as a parent, or if it's during a week and I'm away on the weekend, I try to be present during the week. So trying to blend time as opposed to balance all the time, because you can never really do that. It's very difficult to achieve. So I think for me, the last couple of years, one of the things that has really helped me is make a sort of a yearly training plan or a schedule that blocks out time where I know, obviously in the university season is going to be very hectic for me. So I make sure that, during that time immediately after, that I take time for personal, for family. So making sure that the people around me know that that's the reality, and a very supportive partner and two great independent kids. And if everybody knows the realities up front, then they're able to bob and weave around, and they know that I have a life to live, and that's what I do. That's my job. And I hope that it inspires them to follow what they want to do too, because I was sort of 9 to 5 in it, I guess, with teaching at the time, and diving into coaching full time and working in sport full time is not easy in terms of parenting, but I think it has a lot of great, powerful messages as a parent for your kids and for you after they're gone. And I know Cathy's are gone now, and you have to live your life as well.
Yeah, love it. Thank you, Cindy. And I love that idea of life blend, not balance. And then even like utilizing your coaching skills of a YTP, and you can still apply that and the organization part of that into your life. So yeah, I appreciate that.
It's color coded too.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Love that. And that was a good segue into the question for Cathy, because as Cindy mentioned, Cathy's children are fully grown now, and actually one of them just had a child, so Cathy's now a new grandma. So Cathy, how did you get through the journey of raising and coaching your 3 girls?
I know before I answer the question, you're all wondering how that could be that I could be a grandmother, but I was young. I'm young. So I have to say that this question is interesting, because when Cindy was speaking, it was almost like she'd read my mind for when I was prepping for this answer for my question. So I'm going to say that it was busy beyond belief. There was one winter that we had 3 girls on 13 different teams. So we had a soccer team and a ringette team for both. There was something called regional training program for soccer. There was tween development. There was petite development. We were going every day and night. It was busy. And there were days when I thought, we can't do this, but we did. We had to be scheduled. We had to be organized. So we had a refrigerator calendar that was color coded like Cindy, with everything on it. We often prayed for storm days because that meant we could stay home and have a supper together. There were a lot of sacrifices that we made. I think I have to say a little selfishly that being involved, if I was going to be at the rink or the soccer, and for Kenny at the soccer field with our kids, we might as well be doing something instead of sitting around. So it was in some ways that we were a little selfish in that we wanted to be active with our kids and do things with our kids, get to know our kids' friends, was another big piece of that. So there is a selfish piece of that, but we were busy. I can say that there were a lot of times personally, because we put a lot of expectations and high expectations on ourselves as women leaders. I felt like I was a Jacqueline of all trades and a master of none. So there were times when I was headed to the rink and not thinking I was really prepared with a really great practice plan. Sometimes I went to school and didn't feel like I was ready to teach lessons. So there were days, it wasn't all sunshines and unicorns, and there were days where I thought, how can we do this? But my 3 girls made it really easy. There were times probably they didn't want to head out to the rink or go watch their sister play, but there was no one home to watch them, so they had to come. They knew every single sand pit at every single soccer field, but they did it, and they did it most times with a smile on their face. And I think as a result, I can say that I did spend a lot of quality time with them. Now, as a grandmother, I can look back and like I said in my first bit there that I spoke at, I wouldn't change anything. I think I would have said no a little more often, but I'll talk about that later. But I would say that raising the kids has been a journey while coaching and working. Again, back to the expectations that we put on ourselves. Sometimes we're probably a little too hard on ourselves. I know I was a bit too hard on myself at times, but at the end of the day, my girls didn't notice when it was a bad practice plan, or they were easy, and I certainly appreciate them. Emily told me she was coming tonight. She wanted me to tell everybody that she's my favorite, so I said to say that. But the social time piece, we missed out on that, but our social time became, a lot of people that are here became friends because of sport, which are great friends to have. And as a result, you find your people. And I have found my people in sport, and have leaned on them from time to time. And you can't do it all alone. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but you can't do it alone. So raising kids and being really, really, really busy and having conflicting schedules, it's hard, but the benefit is so much, weighs out so much more on the end on that piece for sure. I think that's all I have to say.
Okay, great. Thank you, Cathy. And we love everything you have to say, so don't hold back. And I don't want you guys being here all night. I'm still stuck on that 13 different teams. So
yeah,
oh my goodness,
it was that we were broke and we were never home. So
oh my goodness, crazy. Okay, so speaking of doing a lot of things, Jody, you do so much. I know you mentioned, or it was briefly mentioned, that you're president of Rant Nova Scotia, which is a volunteer role, but you also sit on many boards. You coach more teams than I can count, and you've been doing it for a long time. So in addition to this, you're super committed to your friends, your fellow coaches. You always make time to them. You're a mentor to them. You're committed to your family and make time for everyone. So how have you been able to split your energy into all of the things that you do?
Well, and you say about So I recently, a couple of years ago, that's recent, time goes by so quick, but I had gotten a new position at work. I don't know if I mentioned it. I work for the province of Nova Scotia, and there was somebody in Ringette that had seen the announcement, and they came up and they congratulated me and said, "Oh, you left your job in Ringette." And I said, "Oh no," because I do, as president, I am very on the ground with in the programming as well. So I think because I'm seeing a lot of places, people assume that's my job and my hobby and everything all in one. But that is a lot of commitments. And Christy, I know that you are just as committed as well. And I had told my my best friend, I said, "My gosh, I'm going to go talk about balancing work life, personal life and my sport life." I said, and I laughed. I said, I don't balance that. And, she said, "Well, you do, you're doing it. So how do you do it?" And I guess I do. It's planning. It's a lot of planning and setting priorities. Like, honestly, I have to schedule everything I do. For example, tonight I'm missing a team practice, which is hard, but it's important for me to be here. And I'm passionate about, empowering others. So I have learned to delegate both in my professional life and my life in sport, and being okay with it. And I think that took me a while, just to be okay that you can't do it all. And you don't have to remove yourself completely, but to be able to share some of those responsibilities. So I set schedules for myself and timelines. I schedule time with my friends and my family. I schedule my workouts. I learned I had to do that. There were some times when I thought, hey, I'm not taking care of myself. I'm taking care of a lot of people, but not me. So I've learned that I needed to schedule when I train and when I work out, when I run, when I have lunch with friends. I have a planned menu. And that's actually, to be honest, a service that I recently started paying for, only because it made life easier. So I was meal planning myself and, making my grocery lists and all of that, to be sure that I was staying healthy through all of that. And recently I found a way to just make it even a little more easier, that, I know exactly what I'm having on days that I'm at the rink. I have a menu plan for that, and a menu plan for when I'm at work and when I'm home. So, and really, these are all skills that, that we learned in sport. And it has become a part of me. So my family, they recognize this. They support this. I laugh. They really have no choice. I was on Zoom's been very helpful because it's removed all the travel to and from, meetings. But my mother a few weeks ago, she wanted to visit me. And I said, "Well, Mom," she always says, "Is it a ringette night?" And I said, "Well, there's one night of the week when it's not tonight. And I do have a call." So she kind of popped in and dropped something off, and she left. And I said to the others on the call, I said, I kind of feel guilty, but this is kind of her fault. She created this. She introduced me to sports. So, and that's, and so I jokingly, I waved goodbye, and she kind of brought me into sport. I could barely walk. And these are some values that she's instilled in me. So like, many of you. So whether it's your personal life, your professional life, you just need to balance, learn how to balance. And that's what I focus on doing. So, and that also means managing expectations. Another beautiful skill that we learned in sport.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jody. Yeah, I love that. And yeah, organizing, setting time aside for each one of your commitments, it's crucial. And yeah, that's great advice. And the managing expectations kind of falls back in a bit to what Cathy was saying about, like, she wished she would have said no at some times. So yeah, like setting those expectations and knowing it's okay to say no when you have too much on the go. So thank you. And that, again, it kind of leads us into our next one. Is, as coaches, we face a lot of guilt when we have to miss time with our friends, our families, our partners, etc., due to our job as a coach. So Cindy, I'll ask you first, how do you manage this and focus on the moments when you are with your loved ones?
Yeah, I think that goes to the blending piece and being upfront with your family and friends. I mean, my family and friends know what I do and know when my busy times are. And I think, to Cathy's point, just, being able to say no and set those expectations. But I also think it helps you be more present for them when you're with them, because when you do have those pockets of time that you are fully there for them. So me on the ice with Emma on Monday nights at 9 o'clock that's our time to go up to the rink together, and taking her to wherever is, even in the car going somewhere, is our time to have that connect. So I think like Jody said, sort of protecting time for yourself, and you got to protect time for when you're with your family and friends. When they reach out and they say, I need you, or or whether it's dinner or driving them somewhere or coaching, that you're fully present and with them at the time. So it's a lot of support too from the people that are around you.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Cindy. And yeah, who you surround yourself with is so important. Yeah. Thank you. Jody, I think I'll bounce it back to you and then we'll ask Cathy. So Jody, how do you manage this guilt that you may face at times and focus on the moments when you are with your loved ones?
My mute button, sorry about that. Sure. So I find that so not being distracted when I am with kind of managing to focus with my loved ones. So turn emails off, turn my phones off. I have learned it's not healthy, for those relationships. It's not healthy for me. I've learned this many times, to plan anything the night before a big event. So that I'm not, with others when I know I'm very distracted, preparing, and, the anxiety and excitement that comes all in one before an event. So I clear my schedule on those nights just to ensure that, I am being fully in, and I want to show up at all times, really being fully present with my family, my friends, and again, the same expectations that we really set with our athletes. So whether that's with, showing up with, whether that's with your team, whether that's with your job or your family, now that things have opened up a bit in our province, we're able to, I've been able to plan time away, to meet friends and to have that time with them. So I recognize that it needs to be intentional. So everything that we do, we want to do with intention, that when we schedule that time together. And sometimes that does overlap. Again, very fortunate. I have a supportive family. Last year, I was busy on my birthday. Busy meaning I was at the rink. So my parents, showed up. They came to the rink and met me after they watched the game, and met me, in the lobby afterwards. And here's your birthday cake. I felt guilt. I really did. And I felt like I wasn't giving them my time. And I expressed that. And I do continue to say, how can we combine both worlds? We combined both worlds that day. And we, continue to do that. My mom will travel with me if I have to travel for work, so it is kind of balancing that time. So I do come from a family who loves sport. So we attend events together, and they know that that's especially, and as Cindy says, they really know when the busy seasons are and when the downtime is. So, and to take advantage of that. So I also, I do feel it's important, and it has been to me, to maintain my relationships outside of sport and work. So that's really helpful for me. It gives me an outlet to kind of refresh and separate, kind of guilt-free. So yeah, I find that, in order to maintain your relationships in all aspects of your life is important. I'm fortunate. I do work a modified work week with my job. So it frees up one day, every few weeks, and I dedicate that day to focus on my administrative responsibilities with my volunteer work. So I definitely, see if you can look at, what fits into your life. I have a supportive friends that really know how much passion I have for what I do. And so they are on board. They're on board. And I think they've learned that. They don't know me any different. So I think that they've learned that a long time ago, and it only enhances your relationships as well, to have, supportive friends and family, and to be around those that, bring positive vibes to you. I can say that. But yeah, so that's really, I just say choose your career carefully, and, your circle carefully, that you have that's, be transparent, so you have a supportive environment that allows a flexibility to help with that, to help mask that, like, I guess really kind of take away the guilt that you would feel.
No, that's great. Thanks, Jody. And I remember, like, on your point of support, I remember you saying how, like, you call one of your best friends like every day on your way to work. Well, when we used to drive to work. So that's actually something I started to adopt, like, on my way home from late night practices, I might call like my grandparents to stay in touch with them. So like utilizing that time commuting to the rink or commuting to work to connect with those people you might not always get to. So yeah, thank you. All right, so Cathy, I will send this one to you. So how do you manage this guilt you may face and focus on moments when you're with your loved ones?
I can say that I probably have felt guilty just about every year of my life once I got busy with kids. And again, I'll go back to the comment that I made about being, in many different places. For me, I should go back also and say that without Ken, my partner, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did. So it's very, like, I'll go back to having that supportive person or people in your lives that kind of allow you to be busy without guilt. So he was certainly very important through all of the years with my girls and all the teams and things I was doing. But the guilt, the fear of missing out, the old FOMO, you didn't want to miss family functions and things like that. I have, Easter weekend was always on a very important competitive weekend in our sport. And oftentimes I would miss hiding Easter eggs for one or two of the girls. And oftentimes my mom and dad were the Easter bunny for that weekend. This just is an example. And I used to feel extreme guilt about that. I used to think, gee, like I should be hiding those Easter eggs. And here I am in PEI in a snowstorm in April, running to the rink and filling Easter bags and baskets for other people's kids. Like, where, you had that guilty feeling. But in years later, and recently as today, my girls have special, wonderful memories with their grandparents on Easter weekend that I wouldn't ever want them not to have. So sometimes it was giving up what I thought I was supposed to be doing so they could have a memory somewhere else. I think that takes a long time to get in your head. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier too. Female, lots of leaders, not just female leaders, but women in sport and women leaders, put their expectations. They have to be so good at everything all the time. And it's unrealistic. It's unreasonable for us to do that to ourselves. And so we do have to let things go and let other people be the Easter bunny, basically, or do those things for you. When you do have the time, it is about being present. I get reminded all the time to stop working. Sometimes at night, I'm still trying to finish up an email to a parent or to a staff member, or sometimes it's putting a schedule together for sport. And I often get reminded even today to put the computer down, Mom, and watch this TV show with me, or Ken will tell me to put it away. So sometimes I do still have to be reminded to put it away because I have put such high expectations on how much work I can get done. And at the end of the day, your family and your health are priority. And so sometimes you have to be reminded, but it's okay to remind yourself that it's okay for someone else to be the Easter bunny. Yeah.
I love that analogy. Yeah, thank you, Cathy. And yeah, I love that. Thanks so much. And I remember those days. So we're heading into our last question. So if anyone from the audience does have questions, please put them in the chat box or send them directly to myself or Janice if you'd like them to be anonymous. So for the next question, we'll start with Jody. So as someone who continues to balance their personal, professional, and sport life, what is the biggest piece of advice you have received that has helped you do so? And what piece of advice do you have for all the women on the call tonight?
Sure. So I haven't, listening to some of the comments Cathy made, I haven't said it yet, but I will, because I think maybe some can relate. As a woman in a leadership role, I continuously am faced with comments that create guilt from social norms. So I'm single. And so if I get it very often from friends, and so what they tell me is, well, if you free up some of your time from work and from sport, then a partner would come in for me, a husband, then maybe you'd have a husband. And so I often think, well, and get frustrated with that comment. And I hear it. I hear it all the time. I hear it at least a few times a month. I hear it at work. I hear it from my friends. So it never sits well with me. And the best piece of advice not that I want one, I don't want one, but it's just, I don't have one. So the best piece of advice I don't want to give anything up for one. But the best piece of advice that does kind of keep me balanced and check in is that, someone once told me, continue doing what you love and what you're passionate about, and you will become the best version of yourself. And so reminding myself that that's my that's my priority, and to be the best person doesn't necessarily mean I'm fitting into some of those expectations of others or those norms that are expected of a woman. So that's my advice. So yeah, you will be the best version if you do what you love.
Yeah, thanks. And thank you, Jody, for sharing that. And yeah, that's great advice and applies to everyone. So thank you. Cathy, we'll send it back to you. I won't repeat the whole thing, but what's the biggest piece of advice that you've received that's helped you, and what advice you have for everyone on the call tonight?
Well, there's a couple things Cindy said really early on this evening that her kids have had to adapt to bob and weave with her. It takes me back to the VON nurse arriving when I had my oldest, and she made a comment and it stuck with me. She said, that baby has come into your life. You have not come into that baby's life. And I kind of did the head shake. What are you talking about? But her message was that what Cindy said, you need to live your life and do your thing and be you, and the baby will adapt. And sure enough, they've all kind of had to bob and weave like Emma and Michael for sure. That was just something somebody else said to me once, way back, and it's true for just about everything really in my life. I have a top 10 list, but I'm not going to list all 10 of them. I am going to say that I've said a few of them already. Sometimes it's okay to say no and just say, no, you know what, tonight I'm not going, or next weekend I'm laying low. It's okay to do that. Be prepared to give things up. Be prepared to give up important things sometimes. Find your people, find your Easter bunnies, find the people that you can lean on and lean on them. They want you to lean on them. I already talked about prioritizing your family and friends and your health. Those are the most important things above all else. There's no such thing as being perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to forget. You're going to take the wrong kid to the wrong venue on the wrong day. And I think the most important piece of advice is to laugh and laugh at yourself and laugh and find those people and just laugh away, because that at the end of the day, that's what it's about.
Love it. Thank you. You'll have to send us the 10 in an email.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I'll prioritize them.
Okay. Thanks, Cathy. All right. And last but not least, Cindy, what piece of advice have you received that's helped you along the way? And what piece of advice do you have for all the women on the call tonight?
I will echo what the others said, but definitely, honestly, being in sport should be joyful. And being around those people, like Cathy said, the humor piece and the people piece is my biggest draw. There's no question. It's the volunteers or the staff or it's the kids. That should be one of your biggest draws. And I bring my kids and have brought my kids everywhere. And I don't regret anything about that. My son and my daughter have spent time with amazing young women, and they get to watch them, and it's nothing for Michael to rhyme off female athletes or whatever, or who is the best player in your team today, and that's very normal for him, which I think is a really cool part of it. And aside from Emma watching some powerful young women do some really great things, it's going to be messy and never going to be perfect. Don't try to fix it. Just got to roll with it. I think that's where the sense of humor comes in. Don't lose yourself. I think it's important that they see you doing what you want to do, and hopefully you inspire them to do the same, because they will be gone and live in their own life. And I think it's very important that as females, we give so much to others that you don't lose yourself in the process. So, and don't feel bad for it. I don't apologize for it. I think that blend or balance or whatever has turned out, right now for the kids, two very independent and adaptable, powerful kids, and doing what they want to do and doing really well at it. So yeah, that sums up for all three of us, I think.
Awesome. Thank you, Cindy. And yeah, that's great that your kids got to be around so many wonderful young women, and even like your son, that's so cool that you can do that. So thank you for sharing. Janice, are there any questions coming in? Oh, I got one, never mind. Okay, so we have some questions from the audience, and if we have a bit of time, I have another question that we can ask, but this one is for Cindy. So Cindy, how did you decide or get the courage to leave your teaching career to pursue a career in sport?
Oh, wow. It was a bit of a process. And I actually think there was a moment in time when I went in to speak to an administrative person in my school. We weren't necessarily on the same page all the time, but he said to me, you'll be back, because I was taking a little bit of time to coach. And I left that office thinking, no, I won't, because I want to do this. And I know it's a risk, and I know it's not as stable, and I know it's transient, and I know it's all those things, but this is what I want to do. And I'm just going to go for it. And my partner at home's super supportive. He actually pushed me a little bit and said, just shut up about it and do it already. But I felt very strongly that that's what I wanted to do, and that I could do it, and I could do well doing it. And it is actually morphed into a whole bunch of other things, which I'm very passionate about. And this is one of them, reaching out and helping other people, and mentoring, and some mentoring things right now, and just meeting some awesome people across the country. Like Cathy said, find your people, and they're usually in the thing that you love to do. So yeah, it was a risk, but I don't regret it at all.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing. And there's some comments in there, and someone said, yeah, you proved him wrong. So that's great. Okay. So if anyone has any more questions, definitely ask away. I just received another one. So I'll ask Jody this first. At what point did you really realize you needed to create the balance in your life, set those boundaries and expectations with your loved ones?
That's a good question. For me, so I did a number of years ago, now I did go through a separation where I was, unbalanced, which included work and sport. And at that time really had to reset and recognize, where I was putting my energy and how I was spending time with my loved ones. I will say I didn't change anything that I do, because kind of the work that I was doing and the coaching I was doing was, as Cindy had mentioned, like that was me and this is who I am. So it wasn't that I wanted to remove anything or change anything. It was just more about how am I going to reset. And that's when I started to have more intentional time with my loved one. So it did really make me recognize that, you can't always, with friends and family, you do need to, Cathy and Cindy have both said it, just being able to have that downtime and recognize whether that's in the morning over breakfast or, as Cathy said, in the sand pit at the soccer field or, so it is just being able to recognize it for yourself. So. Mm-hmm.
Great, thanks, Jody. And I'll send this question as well to Cathy. So I'll repeat it again. Cathy, at what point did you really realize you needed to create the balance in your life, set those boundaries and expectations with your loved ones?
It's a great question. And sometimes I wonder if I've even found that balance yet. There's days where I'm falling over blocks and the other days I'm perfectly zen. I can say that, and I don't want to be a downer here, but I can say that in 2010, my dad had been quite sick for quite a few years. And we were running the roads and my mom and dad were coming to the soccer fields and the rinks, and they were the #1 fans and cheering them on. But it felt like they were always coming to us, sort of like what Jody said for her birthday. And my dad got really, really sick. And it was in April and we were preparing to head off to Canadian Ringette Championships. And I just had a bad feeling, and we had trained and practiced all through the winter, ready to go. And like 3 days before we were to take off, I had to make the decision that I didn't feel comfortable to leave. And it was huge because in the ringette world, that's the pinnacle of the sporting year in the season. And it's the girls, we had a great team. We were ready to go, and I had to cancel out and stay home. I'm glad I did, because I did lose my dad during that week. And it was in that week that I had lots of conversation where people knew that I had decided not to go to ringette. And it wasn't a hard decision, but it was the other people speaking to me about how it must have been a hard decision. I thought, oh man, like I got to get this checked, because if people think that was a hard decision for me, like that's unrealistic for people to think that. It's a no-brainer. So it was in 2010. That was the year that I kind of had kicked myself a little bit and made that, like I said, when other people were saying, oh, you're not going to CRCs, oh my goodness. But that really kind of, it was a kick in the butt to hit the reset button and make sure we balance things out and prioritize and not ever lose sight of that. So.
Great, thank you for sharing that, Cathy. And yeah, that's great. Thank you. And last call for any more questions. Please put them in the chat box or unmute yourselves. I'll start to share my screen again to wrap things up, but I do want to be mindful of time. And oops. Okay. Okay, I'll ask this one last question because it's a good one, and then we'll do the wrap up. So I'll open up to the floor, and you got like Cathy, Cindy, Jody, chime in when you want. Do you think things are different, or how are they different for females entering into sport careers now?
Wow. I'll jump in it. That's a great question. I will say that sometimes I've been guilty of, because my experiences have, for the most part, been very, very positive in sport. Even in the, coaching, which is male dominated. I've had a lot of great male mentors and as well. So for me, my experience has been very positive. Is it changing? No, not quick enough. Now that I'm especially diving in more to the education and the mentoring, and I see more awareness has been raised to me through others. And I just think that there's a lot of great initiatives going on right now, this being one of them, creating those support networks and getting people out there and telling their story to say to somebody else that it's okay. Like, you're going to feel like this, and this, and that's all normal. I think as females, we worry quite a bit, just worry about all those things. So, well, I do think we're making some strides. It's not near where it needs to be yet, for sure.
Great, thank you, Cindy. And Cathy or Jody, do you want to add anything to that?
I would agree 100% with Cindy. I would say that we need a lot of people to disrupt what has always been, because it's always been that way. And when we see a female reffing or officiating in the Super Bowl, we celebrate that. But it should. I dream of the day where that's just it. That's who's there, and that she doesn't have to be better, twice as good as the male official to be doing the same job. I think that's where I hope I see it. I hope I see it before I'm not here, sort of thing. Like, I hope it's a change, but it's been ongoing. It's a system, and a system is hard to change, but we need people to disrupt and make some changes.
Totally agree. Thank you. Okay, so before we do our closing, we just want to, well, first of all, thank you to Cindy, Cathy, and Jody for sharing tonight. As mentioned at the beginning, it can be a bit of a touchy topic, so we appreciate you guys sharing your experiences and wisdom with us, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight and asking these questions. We would ask you all to use the annotate function again. So at the top of your screen, there's 3 dots, and you can click the annotate button and share any takeaways from this session with us and with the fellow attendees. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. And while you're doing that, I'll announce the winners of the swag. So from all the people that attended, we did a random draw, and we will be providing the 4 winners. Yeah, 4 winners with swag. So these 4 people, and sorry if I pronounce any names wrong, they will be Melanie Lafleur, Tara Lighthead, Sophia Josenhans, and Emily Burton. So we'll be sending you some swag, and I know, Emily, you're far north right now. We'll get it to you.
Put a couple extra stamps on that one.
Yeah, maybe we'll give it to your mom instead. But congratulations. Please send a message to Janice with the contact information, and we'll ensure that gets to you. So again, that was Melanie, Tara, Sophia, and Emily. Okay, so I'll read a couple of these takeaways. So it's okay to say no, find your people, laugh, blending our time, be brave and do what you believe in. Awesome. Thank you for everyone for sharing. So I'll clear that if I can. And then the next slide. So we just wanted to bring attention to the sessions that are coming up in March and April. So the Female Leadership Series, coaches are welcome to attend those as well. We have great presenters in both our leadership and coaching series. So the next one is 2 weeks from now. And then our next coaching series is at the end of March, and it's about athletes transitioning to coaches. So as a coach, it's great help for you to attend this to help transition your athletes into coaches, but also pass this information on to your current athletes so that they can learn about how to continue into the sport pathway, but maybe into a different role. And then also So the next coaching series in April is our Coaching with an Edge Atlantic Coaches Conference. So usually this is hosted in person, but we will be hosting this online this year. Cindy is actually one of the speakers at this conference. So it will be online April 23rd and 24th. We have presenters from all over Canada joining us and some coaches outside of Canada. So it's pretty exciting. I even have someone from Denmark joining us this year. So definitely purchase your tickets, and there are some discounts if you're involved with our CSCA programs. So one of those programs is our VIP program. So as a VIP coach, you receive many perks, including a free admission to the Atlantic Coaches Conference. So in order to become a VIP coach, there are certain requirements that you have to meet, which are mostly shaped around safe sport. So to learn more about this program, we ask that you go to supportforsport.ca/VIP. You can apply for the program, and then I will reach out to you with more information about how to obtain that VIP status and obtain some perks such as the free ACC, a full Under Armour kit, and then networking opportunities like these. The last thing I'll mention is our Nova Scotia Community Coach Mentorship Program. So this will be starting up in April. It goes for a 12-month period. And a really cool thing with this mentorship is we try to pair women together. So we try to make it a female mentorship program. And it's a multi-sport program. So it'd be a way to further your networking with females in sport and females in coaching. So the applications are open now, and it will start in April. And you can reach out to me for more information about that. I'll be following up this session with an email so you can gain more information from me there. And that's it for me. Sorry we went a bit over time, but thank you again to our panelists for tonight. And thank you everyone for attending this session tonight. And we'll see you next month, March 24th. So thanks everyone, and have a good night.
Thanks, Kirsty.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks,
Thanks.
Kirsten.
Thanks.